Today I kind of want to give a little bit of a book review, kind of. And when I was 18 years old, and this was back in 1973, my parents gave me some money for the occasion, and I went down to a local bookstore, and I don't remember the name of it. It's long since been out of business. But I bought 3 books that day. One of them was called The Great Movies, written by Bosley Crowther, and it was a large paperback, and he was a critic for the New York Times, and he compiled some famous movies, all the movies everybody has heard of, up to about 1970, early 70s. And what I remember most about him is that he had a big crush on Greta Garbo. Oh my God, he just gushed all over Greta Garbo. But that was one of the books. And then the second book I purchased was called Bessie, and that was a biography of Bessie Smith by the late Chris Albertson. It's a great book. It's still in print. And it's been the definitive biography of the blues singer. It has some great photographs in it, too. And then I also purchased this book, and it was called The Mind of Adolf Hitler. And in that book, it was a wartime report back in World War II that I think was the OSS and some academics. They got together and they found all this information about Hitler. Remember, he was still alive then. And they did like a psychological profile of Hitler. And they made several predictions of what was going to happen to Hitler, and many of them came true. Other things, other ideas they had in there, because it was based heavily on psychoanalytic theory, it doesn't really hold up now. But one of the big things that they predicted was that Hitler would commit suicide, given his personality makeup. And they were dead right on it. So this book, I still have all 3 of these books, and they're in storage, and hopefully they're not ruined. This book is, in the hardcover, is hard to get now. But I was thinking of this book as I was reading this latest bestseller, big bestseller, Too Much and Never Enough by Mary Trump. And although it's grotesque to call Trump another Hitler, I wasn't really thinking of that. I was thinking of the psychology behind it, the family dynamics behind it, of why he behaved the way he did. So it did remind me of the wartime report of Hitler. But this book is really good if you get a hold of it. It's only about 211 pages, and it just, the author, of course, she's one of his nieces, or his niece, and she was the daughter of the oldest son, Freddie. I think he was Fred Trump III. And that was the one sibling that died young of alcoholism. And it's a tragic story, because a lot of her book is about her dad and how her grandfather treated all 5 of the kids. And she calls him a sociopath, and she's more qualified to diagnose people than I am. But he just didn't, he had expectations, not really for his daughters. They weren't all that. But for the 3 sons, he expected them to run the family business. And of course, the oldest son, Freddie, her dad, he was not interested in running the family business. He had other things he wanted to do. But see, to his dad's eyes, because Freddie was the firstborn son, he was expected to take over the business. He was the golden child, okay, I would call it. She doesn't use that phrase at all in the book. But he was the golden child that turned into the black sheep and was ostracized and just completely, demeaned. While the black sheep of the family, Donald, who was the second to the youngest, he was the black sheep, but he became the golden child because he knew early on what kind of behaviors his dad approved of. And so he became a carbon copy of his dad, and worse, and really worse. But the book basically goes into the family dynamics, and so most of it is focused on the grandfather, Fred Trump Jr., and the son, her dad, Freddie, and then it shifts over to Donald as time goes on. But you can see all of the bad parenting that went on, and you could see how that made him what he is now. So it helps explain it. So if you read this book, then you look at how Donald behaves, you could see why it is he behaves that way. So I found it a very good book. It's an easy read, and it took me I got it in the middle of the afternoon Saturday, so it took me 2 sittings. I finished it by Sunday afternoon. I was done with it. So that's how easy reading it is. And she just hopes that people will realize that this guy has sociopathic or narcissistic tendencies, and they won't vote him in again. But anyway, I recommend the book. And I know that he isn't Hitler, but it's the dynamics, the family dynamics mentioned in both books that made me think, when I read this book, I thought of The Mind of Adolf Hitler.